invite Mme ClarissaAugustinus à s'approcher pour nous parler de l'utilisation des outils fonciers pour améliorer la qualité de vie. Alors, elle est chef de division du Réseau mondial des instruments fonciers. C'est un organisme qu'elle a fondé en 2004, donc ce Global Land Tool Network, un réseau de plus de 60 partenaires internationaux. Depuis 2003, elle est aussi chef de l'unité Global Land Tool Network, ONU Habitat à Nairobi au Kenya. Alors, c'est le point focal, les bureaux de l'organisme sont là. C'est le point focal pour les territoires urbains dans tout le système des Nations Unies. Elle a réalisé donc un large éventail de services conseils au niveau mondial depuis plusieurs années maintenant, au niveau mondial, régional et national, au profit de gouvernements de tous les niveaux. Elle a également publié un grand nombre de publications sur la gestion des terres en faveur des pauvres. Madame Augustinus, s'il vous plaît. Voilà, bienvenue à vous. Alors,
thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. It's a great honor to be here in Quebec, my first time in Quebec. Really, my apologies about the fact that I don't speak any French. So, what I'd like to talk to you about today is really about what the quality of life is for the poor, what does it mean for the poor, and in terms of land administration issues, so that you know in future exactly how important the work you are doing is for the poor. And to point out to you that the Global Land Tool Network, which has 66 partners, of which FIG is a critical partner, has done amazing work already in the area of land administration for the poor. By working on specific land tools, and I'll describe some of those to you, how many of your leaders and a number of you individuals have worked on these tools over many years to get us to the point where the poor are actually using these tools. So let's look at the quality of life for the poor. What are the key issues for them? It's food every day, it's a house, and of course security of tenure. It's services like water and an ability to go to a hospital or a clinic or go to a school. So if we understand what is the situation globally now in regard to food insecurity, a total of at least 840 million people, or around 1 in 8 in the world, are estimated to be suffering from chronic hunger. Many of the small farmers are supplying food, but they themselves also suffer from food insecurity. And we see that many large investors are moving onto land that is held by the poor, but which is not registered. And this is causing more food insecurity. Remember that land is both a physical place for food production and grazing, but it's also important for storage, transportation, food preparation, and consumption. And of course, we have increasing food insecurity in urban areas. And land is really critical for people who are in crisis. Sometimes they want to sell the land so that they can pay for a hospital bill, or to be rented out or sharecropped with a tenant for food or money. And of course, pledging as collateral. If we look at shelter, at least 890 million people currently are living in slums. They don't have proper houses. And probably over 70% of land in developing countries is unregistered. So the issue of tenure security is really critical. And land administration is, in a fit-for-purpose frame, is absolutely critical for the sustainability of the planet, in fact. I'll also talk about how important infrastructure for service provision, both the main infrastructure, as well as, of course, the individual services. more than 50% of an urban population in South Asia and 40% in sub-Saharan Africa doesn't even have sanitation services. And as far as other facilities are concerned, like education and health, again, we know that you can't have these without some form of land use plan being implemented and the facilities built and manned. So about 6 or 7 years ago, a network of organizations, including FIG, was put together. It's now 66 international partners, ranging from some governments through to organizations, professional organizations like FIG, FGF, through to Slum Dwellers International, which is a very big umbrella NGO, and research and training institutions from ITC, Twente, for instance, for example. And we've all been working on an agenda of 18 key land tools. And the FIG has been very involved with this. So the work is being done under the umbrella of the Fit for Purpose Land Administration, which we are talking about here at this conference, and which FIG and World Bank put together. And some of the tools, you heard from Christian Lemon, the social tenure domain model is one of the major tools that's been created, where FIG has been a key champion, and Christian himself. Pro-poor land records, and I'll talk further on those. Participatory inclusive land readjustment, which you know is land readjustment, linked to citywide slum upgrading with land readjustment elements. Then the costing and financing of land administration services, where FIG has been a key lead. We'll also look at gender valuation criteria of how you assess whether a land administration system is responsive to women and men, where FIG has been a key partner. And then finally, the Global Land Indicators Initiative, which is necessary for the Sustainable Development Goals. As I said, this Fit for Purpose publication is the umbrella under which we work. And I'd just like to read to you a small amount from the publication itself. It says that the core issue is that the current procedures and requirements for mapping and boundary delineation are often too cumbersome, expensive, and not comply with actual needs of most citizens for achieving security of tenure. And furthermore, many of the systems have been established are too costly to maintain and operate. So instead, we need a fit-for-purpose framework, which calls for a flexible and pragmatic approach, rather than requirements imposed through rigid regulations and demands for spatial accuracy and systems that may be unsustainable for less developed countries dependent on donor funding. So within that, underneath that umbrella, GLTN will support financially and technically, as required, the development of the manual that will underpin this publication, which will include all the detailed issues like we see and the previous speakers speak to. So we're supporting that publication's manual. And other organizations such as the International Geodetic Association will also be involved. This will be led by your previous president, but one Stig Jenemark. This is a very good example of how this profession is at the forefront of thinking in the world about how to address these issues. Crit has talked extensively about the social tenure domain model, but I would just like to indicate that, again, FIG champions were involved in this development and in piloting. Also with FIG Foundation support and the leadership of a number of the presidents and the ongoing and future leadership of presidents. Chrissy has indicated that she will support us on the vision as part of her broad concepts, broad mandate. This will be one part of it. So this STDM is being piloted in 6 countries, and it's being delivered by a number of institutions, such as Habitat for Humanity, who's working in Colombia, and the Huayra Commission in Zambia. In Uganda, the Department of Urban Development has done a pilot in one municipality, scaling to 5. It's now at 5 municipalities and will scale to 40, where they intend to use this information management system to deliver planning, cost recovery for services and so on. This will be the first time they've been able to use any particular software in these small municipalities which don't have much money and have very little capacity. And UN Habitat has an office in Eastern Congo where there are many conflicts over land and a number of mediation records have been created. We will be working to move these mediation records onto this software platform. In Haiti, where there have been problems around being able to put the same information about the same parcel, which is both cadastral information, occupancy information, and debris information. How do you put that into one system in an easy fashion? It's also going to, this is being discussed with the government of Haiti. And Thomson Reuters have used their version of STDM very successfully in Huambo. But I want to tell you a story. This is a photograph of a slum area in Nairobi called Mashmoni. This slum area started in 1935. It's actually in a quarry, like a bowl in a quarry, which somehow is also owned by the Department of Defense. So this community has a very strong, cohesive NGO with which we've been working. And what you're looking at here is a secure room in that slum with a computer, STDM software, a CD writer, and a printer. And the community collects, organizes, and analyzes the enumeration information for 30,000 people. And they do this through visualization. The backdrop, of course, is a satellite image, and they can actually move this around. We're talking of here, as you can see, the women sitting in front of the computer, some of them with children. They're in their early 20s. These people are young, but uneducated. This software allows people with very little knowledge to be trained within 3 days, and then they are able and empowered to use it themselves. So it's very basic record keeping of who owns the structure, who's the tenant, updating the transfers. But what is important is they are able to then take this information, put it on a CD, and go and negotiate with the municipality or the government to try and get the land planned and upgraded. It's open source software, freely available for use and customization. Feel free to download it. It's being used in many parts of the world now. This shows you which countries, not total, not national, which countries it was being piloted in or implemented in, or project management. We are having conversations about its use for West Africa, for Ebola. In Liberia, UN Habitat already has a program with high-level GIS. And people don't want to go into the slum areas where there's Ebola. So the software would allow the communities to deliver the information, and then it would be added into the broader GIS platform. Another tool which we've been working on is the continuum of land rights, which you heard about from Krit. So it's not just about registering freehold ownership, it's about all different forms of tenures. And Jaap Zevenbergen, who you heard earlier today, is involved in the design of this pro-poor land record system. We are building on this. For instance, we've just done some work in Mexico and had a look at the Ejido system, where they have 3 levels of registries, right down to the community. Over 9,000 registries at grassroots level. And remember that this has been in operation in Mexico since the 1920s. It's a mature system, and it covers 50% of Mexico. So, if you see what we're trying to do here, and you see what we're trying to do in STDM, it's about bringing the poor into the system, and then upscaling incrementally over time. YAP and U20 are currently doing more country assessments to strengthen the design of the Pro-Poor land record system, working with the International Fund for Agricultural Development, who's a key partner of GL10. This particular tool will be very important for communities and for farmers to get easy access to land records and to secure their occupancy rights and negotiate with investors. And all this will improve agricultural productivity and food security. Another tool is land readjustment, but what we are calling participatory inclusive land readjustment and citywide slum upgrading. Essentially, we did a study of 12 countries worldwide on land readjustment, and then did an in-depth study on 4 case studies in the south, India, Angola, Colombia, I can't remember the 4th one. And what we found out is that the technical side may be working, but it's not happening. It's not happening because the population is not involved in the delivery, and the financial model is not working. So we all know that the future of cities is planned extensions and densification. So, and slum upgrading. I mean, in Africa, 60% of most African cities are slums. So working with these together, it's critical to have a technical method that will work. So we did a pilot with the municipality of Medellin in Colombia on how to make it work, and that's what the images that you see. This is the area that we're working with the Medellin municipality. Specifically on participatory approaches. For instance, most land readjustment is only focused on owners and negotiations with owners, whereas in the south it's also about tenants and what form of rights the tenants will have once the land readjustment is complete. And in regard to financial models, around value capture, as it's normally called, it's how do you share value between the public and the private sector? What's the role of subsidies? And this, of course, again, is critically important for the improvement of housing, infrastructure, services, and facilities without the relocation of the poor and tenants. And that's how their quality of life would be improved. We also, with FIG, have developed this ability to assess whether a land administration system or a land tax system is gender responsive, remembering that 50% of poor people are women. Most of them, many of them are single mothers who are the poorest of the poor. And this tool identifies where the gaps are in existing land systems, which need to be more gender responsive. And of course, as we design the other tools, so we learn from our assessments. Just to give you an example, going back to that slum area where I was talking about Mashimoni, there was a woman whose husband died, and the neighbors tried to claim her land. And so she went to the NGO, and they were able to look on the STDM software and say, look, her photograph is here. We have evidence that it's hers, not the neighbors. Again, it's been rolled out by GL10 partners in many parts of the world, in many projects. Another tool that we're working on is the costing and financing of land administration services. We all know that modernizing land agencies' budgets is important. This is being led by FIG with Landmateriaal, Dutch Cadastre, ourselves, Norwegian Mapping Authority, and Danish Geodata. We know that the land administration agencies' systems are are under threat financially, and we have to prove more and more why we should get funding. So this tool is designed for that purpose. It's designed to improve the financial viability of land agencies. What FIG has again been involved in is organizing a process of the creation of the, let's say, the body of knowledge about how to do it, and to lead a peer reviewing and validation set of meetings. And we now have a conceptual framework which is based on cost centers with detailed costings. And phase 2 will follow. How does this improve the life of the poor? Well, again, with fit-for-purpose land administration, one of the things you have to have is what do these different products cost? And in that way, you can design your facilities, you can design your systems better so that the poor can have the facilities that they need, which are affordable and scalable, such as for security of tenure for small farmers, slum dwellers, roads, etc. Another tool that GLTN works on with partners is, you've heard of the Millennium Development Goals that were set up, and now the UN system is developing Sustainable Development Goals for 2015 to 2030. The GLTN partners have set up a specific process led by ourselves and the World Bank and the Millennium Challenge Corporation of the United States. It's called Global Land Indicators Initiative. FIG has been part of the process. And we have been lobbying very hard to get land into the goals, the targets, and the indicators. Currently, there are 17 goals. There are 4 targets within those 17 goals. For instance, in the food security goal, and the poverty reduction goal, and the climate change goal. Land degradation. If you go onto the GLTN website, you can have a look at GLE, as it's known. There have been a number of communiques about what is the thinking by the GLTN partners representing the land sector, including the technical sector, advancing some ideas for land indicators and some main messages, such as women and men. The data should be disaggregated for both women and men, which is a message that's coming across the board for SDGs. That it should not just be ownership rights, but also all different types of land tenures. And that it should be more than registry data. If we need data to say what other kinds of tenures exist in our countries, we should be able to rely on administrative data and perception data. The UN system there's a report currently going to the Secretary General of the UN by December, drawing this information together, and then it will come before the General Assembly early next year and will either be reopened for debate by the member states or will be accepted as it stands. What is the role for the profession? Well, you're going to supply the data. So do your systems have that kind of data? Then finally, if we talk about improving the quality of life of the poor through land administration, and what I've argued to you is you have a critical role to play. If you don't do the job, then the poor won't have quality of life. What we need is to move to a land administration system that covers the whole country. And the fit-for-purpose debate that is taking place among you now is absolutely essential, not only for the poor, but for the sustainability of the planet. We can't go to scale if we don't follow the fit-for-purpose framework, costed appropriately, which includes a range of planning standards and alternative land tenures. We can't build sustainable cities with appropriate and affordable city extensions and slum upgrading at scale, services and facilities, if we don't apply the fit-for-purpose land administration. And we certainly can't deliver serviced land very quickly for the provision of adequate housing. And small farmers will absolutely have to have fit-for-purpose land administration to be able to provide food and food security for the planet. And finally, they won't be able to distribute the food if there's no appropriate land use planning in place, of which land administration is integrated. And of course, without women-responsive and youth-responsive approaches, the constituency won't be there to support. So what I'm trying to say, Madam Chair, is that GLT and partners, where FIG is an absolutely key partner, and we look to continue to have an incredibly good relationship with people as individuals and as who are in FIG, people who are champions in FIG, and the leadership of the FIG, so that when we look forward to the future, we continue this excellent work and scale it further and faster, so that in our generation, we'll be able to solve the problems which we heard about today from our first speaker, the ASG Mulle, who gave us an enormous, complex picture of a problem. But these are the kind of solutions we have to be able to help countries like Haiti to address their problem. Thank you.